Hey folks, mini lecture number 2. Doing these on my phone, my computer's acting crazy, and my children are, the natives are storming in. Okay, so that was real quick on the 1920s to 30s. This is 40s and 50s. 1943, a musical opened that was heralded the golden age of musical theater. Oklahoma. There's quite a few films out there. It brought together the team of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II, or Rodgers and Hammerstein, folks. They had both been involved in musical theater since the 20s, but they had never collaborated before this one. It tells a love story, and they talk about how innovative Oklahoma is. It's not for the love story, but a death was portrayed on scene. Although there was one in Porgy and Bess, but they talk about how this was crucial. That there was people talked about how dark and grisly it was, and then it also gives us Agnes DeMille. Agnes DeMille was a choreographer with classical training. They brought ballet as a crucial part of this piece. So, here they've shown a death on stage, and now we're incorporating ballet into this musical. So, these ballet pieces help carry the story throughout the musical. And I'll include clips from Oklahoma. We have a chorus line. Again, I know we just eliminated that last decade. Now we're bringing it back. Then other ones that they talk about from Rodgers and Hammerstein that we get throughout this decades, is we get South Pacific, Carousel, The King and I, and Sound of Music. I am sure you have heard of at least one of these, if not all of them. Or a couple of them. I'll include clips from them all. Choreography kicks it up a notch during these decades. Not that it wasn't kicked up a notch before, but it starts to encompassing more variety of dance. It's not a specific dance. We brought in ballet, so now we're starting to incorporate more styles into it. So we have like Agnes DeMille, Jerome Robbins. Agnes DeMille was our classical. You get more energetic athleticism and energy, which I said energetic, with Jerome Robbins. And then you have the sharp, angular, eccentric moves by Bob Fosse. So, we have quite an impressive grouping of choreographers that are emerging during these decades. Some of the musicals that we get out of these decades are the writers involved in musicals in previous decades, but they say some of their best work came out of this period. We have Irving Berlin with Annie Get Your Gun, and Cole Porter with Kiss Me Kate. That is the musical version of Taming of the Shrew. In addition, we get new lyricists, new composers and writers on the scene and producing musicals. We get Frank Loesser, who wrote the words for the music for Guys and Dolls, Alan J. Lerner, and Frederick Loewe, who wrote My Fair Lady, a musical version of George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion, and the composer Leonard Bernstein and lyricist, Stephen Sondheim, who created West Side Story, which is the modern version of Romeo and Juliet, musical style. I'll include clips from all of these musicals. I will try to be included, but now it's going to be a little bit more accessible to get them. So, the 40s and 50s give us these groundbreaking, I don't want to say groundbreaking, they give us innovations in plot to story and what's seen on stage with murders. But we're also getting more dance variety, more choreographers are emerging. We're getting classics all the way around, and we gotten some of the best work from previous composers and lyricists, and then we have these new branch of kids that's coming out and out of the woodwork. So like the 40s and 50s is setting up our goal, really making it golden. Like, this is musicals. Now, real quick, let's do it from the 60s to the 80s, shall we? So in 1964, Fiddler on the Roof opened, and it was the end of the golden era of book musicals. So the music was by Jerry Bach, lyrics by Sheldon Harnick, and the book by Joseph Stein tells of a Jewish family whose father tries to uphold the traditions of the past in the small village in Russia, where a Jewish community faces persecution. It was directed and choreographed by Jerome Robbins, who gave an overall style and point of view that represented the best of the American musical. That's a quote from your book. Now we're starting to see a change. We're starting to see the slide here. In 1967, Hair opened. Music was by Galt McDermott, lyrics by Jerome Ragney and Joseph Radu. Not a really crazy storyline, but it's still very popular to produce today. After Hair, musical theater kind of became increasingly fragmented, and in the 70s and 80s, fewer and fewer book musicals were written, though some successful ones continued to appear. In place of book musicals, there were other approaches, one being the concept musical. A production is built around an idea or a concept rather than a story. A pioneer in developing concept musicals was composer-lyricist Stephen Sondheim. Frequent collaborator was director Harold Prince. Some of the concept musicals are The Follies and Assassins. Follies was a tribute of the stars of the music of a bygone era, but also underscored a theme of negative effects of passing years in terms of nostalgia and self-delusion. Assassins is an examination in songs and sings of the motives and delusion of people who murdered American presidents. In addition, the concept musical Sondheim also written more traditional music, Little Night Music, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, which the most recent version of that you're probably aware of was Tim Burton's with Johnny Depp as Sweeney Todd. Occasionally musicals come up with old formulas. We get Chorus Line. That's kind of like that golden era. It opened in 1975 and ran until about 1990. And it was successfully revived on Broadway in 2006. Gotta love a revival. We also get Sweet Charity and Pippin out of this. Tommy Tune and... Sorry, I don't know why I said Tommy Tune along with the shows. Pippin. So you see what we're evolving to here. Another trend toward the of the 70s and 80s was the emergence of British composers and lyricists in the creation of musicals. We get Andrew Lloyd Webber and lyricist Tim Rice, Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita. Webber also wrote music for Cats, The Phantom of the Opera, Sunset Boulevard, and two other large ones were Les Miserables. I butchered that one right there, didn't Les Miserables. And Miss Saigon. And in 2008, fast forward, Billy Elliot came to us. Whew. So, those are some big scale ones that I'm sure you've heard of or you've watched film versions of them. So, musicals from the 80s to now, there are about 4 trends here. There's been a lot of revivals, became real popular. Broadway had tons and tons of revivals, and off-Broadway and traveling companies. Revivals of some of our shows, Annie Get Your Gun, Chicago revivals, Wonderful Town Carousel, Oklahoma, Kiss Me Kate, Fiddler on the Roof, L'Occasion Folly, Sweet Charity, all those all those had like a rebirth, a little revival. Let's see, we have revivals were popular. Go through past the pictures here, sorry. A periodic appearance of fresh offbeat musicals indicating the genre remains full of vitality. Rent is what we're talking about here, something kind of opposite of revivals. So it was fresh take on current situations. Rent came out in 1996, and then not another version, you know, Rent's still pretty popular, and I can't remember the year the film came out. Then we have Avenue Q. We have Into the Heights, Next to Normal. Those are all, you know, out because they're popular. Not because they're popular. They were born or emerged from political or social situations. Current social, political, you know, hot button tickets is where these emerge from. A third trend was musicals based on film. We get The Producers, Monty Python, Spamalot, Hairspray, Young Frankenstein, Lion King, Mary Poppins. All those emerged from films. Footloose. These movies, and you can see the evolution. You know, Hairspray started off as a film, became a grandiose musical, and then became a grandiose movie musical. If you see someone in the background, that is my other child who has decided he needed to pop in while I'm doing a video for class. Almost finishing up, folks. We're going with the fourth trend that's come out of 80s to current time. This is the creation of productions out of the music of former popular stars and groups. They're called jukebox musicals. And jukebox musicals are fun because what do we get? We get Mamma Mia. We also get Moving Out, Jersey Boys. So these are all musicals that are based on former bands or singers. So that's what we get. Those are the trends that really came forth. So the trends from the 80s to now is that we have the revivals. Then we have the extreme opposite of revivals, and it's taking current political, social, human factors and creating musicals out of them. The third was musicals based on films, which you go back and forth because here we had Lion King was based off Disney's animated, Disney's Lion King, and then we have a live action Lion King. No music, but and then the last trend that comes out of it is jukebox musicals, which is based off stars or groups or performers of past, kind of reviving up their music. Like I said, we get Moving Out and Mamma Mia. I will provide links for all these musicals. I want you guys to check all this out. And like I said, I'm giving you 2 solid weeks for the final. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a great day. Bye.